What's up, everybody? This is another episode of Greetings from the Garden State Podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We're here in Netcong, New Jersey at the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey with Stephen Fredericks. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate the opportunity.
I'm excited to be here. So we were just walking through. So this building, like you told me before, this has been here since 1919, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And walking through there with the murals and everything, it's like this is a really cool place. So
yeah, it wasn't always didn't always look the way that you see it today.
Yeah.
When we purchased the building back in 1995, we were in looking for a theater. Our first 13 years as an organization was in Chester, where I grew up as a kid. And when I came back from college and started the Growing Stage, I started to write my own hometown.
Yeah.
But it soon became apparent that we had kind of outgrown that space. It was an old school. It was actually the school that I had graduated 8th grade from, that the town had kind of abandoned and now was looking towards building a new facility. So we were there for 13 years and in desperate need of finding our own home. And one of our board members was a real estate agent who said, I'm not sure if you want to look at this or not. It needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
So we drove up here and I immediately fell in love with the space. I don't know. No, it was in such disrepair. We bought it from a moving and storage company that had gone bankrupt. So from the front door to the backstage area, it was nothing but garbage.
Yeah.
And so the fly system, which is the really tall part in the back of a theater, had no roof. The only thing living in the space was about 60 pigeons. I mean, it was just Budweiser should have sponsored the project because of all the empty beer bottles we found and had to pick up.
Right.
So it really was like, we can fix this. And I don't know what the heck I was thinking at the time, but it worked.
Yeah.
And so now 25 years later, the building has been able to be saved. The first couple of years was removing garbage. I mean, we removed 15 30-yard debris, dumpsters of debris out before we even started renovating.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it was insane.
That tells you everything you need to know. I feel like. Yeah.
Well, and like even, there's this bizarre thing about in theater that you always have to sweep the stage. So we had set up Share Our Palace Pride days. And so the community could come in once a month on Saturdays to help us pitch in and clean the space out.
Sure.
And it was my father and I, and everybody else had already left of the community volunteers. And I decided I'm going to sweep the stage. So I swept the stage, and my leg went through the stage. I pulled my leg out, and then I realized, oh my God, we have a basement. We didn't even realize we had a basement because of all the debris.
Yeah, right.
And I, pulled my leg out, and then I saw, there's a basement underneath here. Now we have to figure out how the heck to get down there.
Yeah, right. Just keep chopping away at the floor, I guess.
Why not?
Right. Yeah.
So whatever works. So it became a tremendous community project, and that was we gave T-shirts out to volunteers that showed up on those Saturdays saying "Share Our Palace Pride," and we had 90-something volunteers show up one Saturday from the community. Yeah, they had no vested interest in the Growing Stage prior to that time, but they saw the opportunity to save a part of their own local history. Sure, and it meant something to them. And from that, we just continually build and brought the theater to a really unique venue for families.
Right.
And now, thankfully, the space is, which just celebrated its 100th birthday. It was built in 1919. Is now on the National Register of Historic Places. Yep. On the national, the county, and the state levels.
Oh, wow.
So it's totally protected in the future. But it all started from that.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. So when you started it originally, you said Chester?
Chester's where it started. Yeah, it came back from college. And
what was like the driver behind that? Did you have like a background in theater, or was there not anything like you didn't have something like that and you wanted to kind of give back to that community?
Well, honestly, it was I was a theater student at Arizona State University.
Okay.
and I took a class in theater for young audiences, thinking it was going to be an easy A.
Yeah, right.
I was a business management major. I had a theater, I was double majoring it with theater and business management because the only place that had an actual theater management program, arts management program at the time, was in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I don't ski, and I don't have a particular fondness for cows
No,
or
right.
dairy.
Yeah.
So I figured, when would I ever have the opportunity to go back to go to Arizona? So
Sure.
why not give it a shot? And so I went out there, and I took that class, and I immediately realized that the power that theater could have, being so much more than just the applause or at the end of a show or a good review from a critic,
Right.
but that you could actually make a difference in somebody's life through theater. And that just really appealed to me because it meant so much more than just creating something that would be with somebody for a short period of time while they watch the show, and then they go off to do something else.
Sure.
So, the more, and after that class, I became very involved in the program.
Yep.
The professor of that class is now 90 years old, and it continues to be a mentor for me.
Awesome.
All through these years.
Yeah.
We just communicated just a few months ago. And so when I came back home, I kind of tried to figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up,
Right. We're all still figuring that out, I feel like.
Yeah. I just celebrated 64 years, man. So, and that's still an open question.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So, then you know what? I can't find what I'm looking for, so I'm going to start it myself.
Yeah.
And so I took $1,500 that I had left, put aside, thanks to my folks, for graduate school, because that was on the table. I went my last interview at Mason Gross School for the Arts for the directing program for an MFA. And the professor said, well, we're going to accept you without any problem, but what do you want to do when you get this, after you get this degree? And I described in a kind of a skeleton form the growing stage. And his response was, well, degree's not going to help you at all, but so why don't you just start it?
Yeah.
So driving home from that interview in New Brunswick to Chester, where I lived at the time, talked about it, thought about it, got home, talked to my parents about it, and they said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And that's how the growing stage started back in 1982.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk, but just so that we can kind of define it just a little bit further.
Yeah, I went all the way around the block there,
Yeah, right.
I?
So the growing stage. So let's just talk about what you guys do here.
Sure.
Because it's the Children's Theater of New Jersey, like we just mentioned. So I think that is a dead giveaway of what you guys do.
Right.
But talk about maybe the programs and all that kind of stuff that you guys do here.
Well, what's really special is it used to be the first name of the theater was the Growing Stage Theater for Young Audiences. Just really clean.
Yep.
And then in 2010, the New Jersey State Senate designated us as being the Children's Theater of New Jersey, because we're the only theater in the state that has its own facility that's solely dedicated to young people and their families through the arts.
Right.
We have the main stage program, which is professional productions that we mount each year. We do between 5 to 6 productions per season. We do an all-youth studio series, which gives young people the opportunity to try out some really new, challenging work that really kind of speaks to some of the things that are really impact them on a daily basis, and yet still gives them an opportunity to learn and creatively engage in the arts.
Okay.
Then we have a Creative Arts Academy. And that has 3 semesters throughout the school year for students that are preschool through high school. We do specialized workshops for one-day shot workshops for high school students. But we've got 10-week sessions and then a 6-week session in the spring. We have a summer arts day camp that runs 5 weeks here in the summer. And then one of the things that's a real connection to the theater that all of our staff members and our artists really appreciate and love is that we also have a new play reading festival. And that helps us to play a role nationally and internationally in the development of new works for young audiences.
Right.
That was a program that started 11 years ago. Our first time we had the festival, we had 6 entries, primarily from the New Jersey area. Now we average over 150 and have received scripts from New Zealand, from Iran, from South Korea, from Brazil, Canada, from all around the world.
Right.
In addition to, I think that by this time now, we've hit all 50 states. Last year we had entries from Hawaii. So I mean, it's well beyond our own backyard here in the state. And then this past year, while we were dealing and navigating the whole COVID thing, we stopped and said, the ones that are being impacted the most by this are the young people that
Sure.
we serve. I mean, you think about it, and the kids, their social activity is that school, and reaching out and being engaged with their fellow students and friends and everything else. And they're locked away from that. Everything's their bedroom
Right.
and a computer screen,
Exactly.
right? And doing that kind of virtual learning. And so what we did was, let's give them a little bit of a voice as well.
Yeah.
So this year we had a Young Writers Festival. And that just energized not only the young people that we have the privilege to work with, it's just the staff, everybody that was involved in it, the people that we brought in as mentors for these young playwrights, the panel that we had put together to read through these scripts and to recommend which ones should be advanced and not into the process. The young people that participated in the scenes that we did and the young directors that we utilized to direct those scenes. It was just like, yeah, we can do this again.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's such an interactive activity. I mean, everything about theater, what makes it so special is the connection.
Sure.
It's the connection between the playwright and the directors and the production team. It's the connection between the production team and the artist. And then it's inevitably the connection between the artist and the audience.
Right.
To kind of reestablish those connective links in a live experience and within the theater, it was just, I didn't expect it to impact me and make, I got shivers up my spine from going back there and doing it. Didn't realize how much I missed it, especially after 40 years, but it just really kind of rekindled the fire and got everything going. But that's everything that's the growing stage. And in addition to that, we also do school residencies and bring our program to schools. And we hope after COVID and we get past the pandemic, we'll be able to resume that once again.
Sure. Oh, yeah, 100%. So before we get into our first break, my last question in this segment would be, you're talking about all these things, like all these programs and how you're getting scripts from all over the world, and it's reaching just beyond Netcong, New Jersey. Did you ever?
We're better known outside of Netcong. Right. Sometimes I think the guy down the street cutting his lawn.
Right.
What do you guys do there?
Yeah, exactly. What is that place?
What is that place?
But did you ever, like when you started this, did you ever think that it would reach this? Did you ever have like any vision that it was going to get to this point, or is this something beyond what you could have imagined when you first started?
That's a really good question. You know what, Matt? I've never had the time or given myself the kind of time to just stop and reflect. I am one of the blessed that doesn't have to go to work, but has the mindset that I get to go to work. Because I get to go to a work that I love and that makes a difference and means something to me. So that for me, I never expected it. It was just, all right, this has to get done. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And then build off of that success. All right, well, if we were able to accomplish this and have 10 kids participate in this program, What are we doing so that we can make it even and reach even more?
Sure.
And it's been that mindset that I've attempted to share with our staff and our board of trustees. So we're always moving forward,
Right.
and never just stopping and settling. Well, we hit our goal. Let's just relax.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I love that. All right, so we're going to take our first break.
Sure.
We're going to take a short break here. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. We're here at the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey in Netcong, New Jersey with Stephen Fredericks. I'm Mike Ham. We'll be right back. It is time for Today in New Jersey History. On November 8th, 1975, actress Tara Reid was born in Wyckoff, New Jersey. Reid is best known for a recurring role of Vicky in the American Pie film series. And that is Today in New Jersey History. And we're back. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We're here at the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey at Netcong, New Jersey with Stephen Fredericks. So Steve, in the beginning of this, we kind of went through the whole background of the Growing Stage and its start in Chester, now here in Netcong. So one of the things that I was meant to ask in the first segment, we went a little bit long, so I want to ask in this segment before we start this part, is as you moved from Chester into this building, and once you're able to clear out all the crap that was in here and get started, did the growth and all the positive things that were happening for the Growing Stage, did you see those things kind of increase exponentially as you started here?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the attractions of the building was not only that it was a theater space originally,
right,
and it had like a distinct history that we could also add to the marketing scheme that we were doing, and providing young people with an actual like jewel box type of setting. Eventually, was the fact that where Netcong is situated, right off of Route 46, Route 206, Route 80. So for people to be able to get to the facility was going to be a lot easier. We loved our time in Chester. It was kind of a rural setting.
Sure.
And so that this allowed us to not only expand the things that we had dreamed that we wanted to do at the time back in 95, but it also gave us an opportunity to expand our audience and really create a reach well beyond just Morris County, but throughout northern New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we would have been able to do that had we had stayed in Chester.
Right. And so it's interesting too that you mentioned like the unique history. So this was, you told me before we even started, this was like a silent movie theater at one point.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's been here for over 100 years, so obviously it has some cool.
Things. It was some really cool things that we only found out afterwards, and we're still continuing to learn.
Yeah.
Because we really have made not only a part of our mission that we're serving young people through the performing arts, but also that we have a stewardship in protecting the history of this facility because of the gift that it gave back to us and allowing us to actually create a theater home. It was built in 1919 by a group of local businessmen that realized that the school in the area had no place for the kids to have their graduations or do school plays in.
Yep.
So that was their first inspiration for building the space. And so then in order to pay the bills for the space, they became part of a vaudeville line. They showed silent films, and then they allowed the community to utilize the facility for, different fundraising events, the local firemen, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And then in the mid-30s, the Hapakon Broadway players, which were actual New York stars from Broadway, who would vacation out to Lake Hapakon, would come out here for several summers and try out new material in the theater. And ironically, the main director for that program was a woman by the name of Pauline Frederick. No relation whatsoever to me, but it was just like this really eerie connection thing. Then in the 1939, it became primarily a movie theater, a cinema, when the talkies really started to blossom. And it was a cinema right up until I believe it was like 75, 76. I don't know the exact year it stopped becoming a cinema. It had several different ownerships over the years.
Yeah.
Became really difficult to compete with the mall cinemas, with the 12
Right.
plexes and
Yep.
all of that. Thankfully, it never divided the theater like some of the older houses, what had happened to them. But I do know that Orca the Killer Whale was the final film shown here.
Okay.
They did, prior to Orca being shown, they did try for a very brief period of time. It was only about a year where it was a triple X movie theater. And so thankfully that wasn't the last film that was shown here. Oh, now it's a children's theater.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's what happens when you show porn.
Yeah,
but I mean,
history, baby, history.
History. It's all history. So they're probably all R-rated movies now,
sure.
anyways.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it had so people constantly say, "Oh, isn't that the old triple X theater?" No, yeah, it was, but that's just like a snippet of his history.
Exactly.
Thankfully, we've totally outshone that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Thankfully.
But
right.
yeah, it was. It got on the National Register of Historic Places because of the ornate tin ceilings that we have in the theater, which we highlight in the interior design that we've done in the space. And then also, it was one of the first 5 buildings in the nation built with poured concrete forms.
Oh, wow.
So because of the steel shortage after World War One, so there was this local myth going around that the immigrants that were here, the Netcong was evenly divided between the Irish community and the Italian community. Well, the Irish immigrants worked on climbing ladders and pouring buckets of concrete and anything else that they could go into the mix. And there was this whole thing about like, yeah, they used to give them fifths of whiskey to congratulate them when they hit a certain goal.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's lovely. We'll include that in our history too,
exactly
right? And then when we took the balcony seating that was on the upper part of the theater,
right,
and we leveled that off and made it an art gallery and a reception area, so that we could utilize that space. And as we were lifting up the boards, we found empty bottles, fifths of whiskey from 1919.
Yeah.
So I think one on my shelf. Yeah, they're up there on my shelf.
Oh wow, yeah.
But so it's incredible, and especially with Netcong. Netcong has been a gift unto itself.
Right.
The community has been so responsive. The town council throughout the past 25 years, regardless of who's been in charge, has always shown a real active appreciation for what the theater has meant to not only the community of Netcong, but also the region. And we're a stone throw from Sussex County.
Yeah.
And other than the Newton Theater that's up there,
right,
there really is no other professional arts organization around.
No.
So we're serving this region, and thanks to Route 80 and those other highway connections, it really has then networked all the way throughout.
Yeah,
all the way to Hudson County, into Staten Island, into the Poconos. The growing stage serves that community.
Yeah, which is awesome. So we're going to get more into the community in our second segment, or our third segment, I mean. So for this, before we wrap up this one of the things that I was curious to know is, we talked a little bit about the programs and everything, and a little bit about how you navigated the last year and a half or so with COVID and all that. Were there any things that you did over the course of that, pandemic timeframe that you think were things that you might take into the future and kind of implement permanently into what you guys do here?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole Zoom thing, which we had to go right into.
Yeah.
So we on March 15th in 2020, we stopped our production. We had a production of Pinkalicious, which is a very popular piece for young people. We had rehearsed for 6 weeks. We had 3 performances of it. And it was scheduled for the whole month of March, and we had to stop it right after that first weekend. So after a couple of weeks, and we kind of like, what's happening? What's this really all about?
Yep.
who's telling us what, because you were hearing
Yeah,
all
right.
different things,
All different
and
things.
nobody really even knew themselves. And we're seemed to be getting on the same page, but
Yeah.
at that point in time, it was a whole book we were dealing with.
Oh yeah.
So we went right into and created our director of education, Lori Lawrence, and Danny Campos, who is our marketing director, and our production manager, Kara Scalera. The three of them right away got together and created TGS TV. So we had once a week, we had a program that we were making available for free on Facebook.
Yeah.
And that was interactive for young people so that they maintained that connection to the organization. So the whole virtual thing is something that is a whole component now that we're going to be adding in and making available.
Right.
Now our programming for the classrooms, whether in schools and such, that can be put on broadcast in a classroom, on a screen, either to the whole school or to a classroom.
Yeah.
So that again now expands our reach well into South Jersey.
Oh, for sure.
And around the country, as a matter of fact. So that's really a very exciting element.
Right.
The whole thing, though, too, is the challenge of, all right, your live theater. How do you make that whole connectivity still real? And sustain that while you go into this different area of production. So what we'll do is, and we've decided is that after we do a performance, then we'll do a live Zoom with the artist.
Oh, cool.
So that the students and the artists can still have that communication and have that talk back moment, so that they can then take it to another level within that classroom.
Right.
And that's really the goal of all of our educational programming, is making sure that it's not just for a moment that we're creating, but it's not only a moment or a memory that we're creating, but it's something that they can utilize in their daily life.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's, definitely a positive thing that I would assume that's come out of a lot of negatives. And it's just good to see like what a lot of these people that we've had on the show, what they've done kind of over that time.
Sure.
To, make lemonade out of lemons, or
well,
whatever.
Even the whole component of having your board meetings. I mean, for nonprofit organizations, one of your greatest challenges is getting effective board members.
Right.
Well, driving and schlepping down to Netcong on an evening during the week when you've been busy at work or doing whatever you do during the day in your professional life, you really don't have the time. Or now we do our board meetings via virtual platform, and we have a board member in Bergen County, in Hudson County, in Camden County.
Yeah.
So Somerset County. So our board truly represents the entire state right now.
Yeah.
Which is
awesome.
is great.
Yeah.
Because that way that we can meet the challenges that they face in Jersey City,
right,
as much as we can now in Camden or Netcong.
Yeah, exactly. Which is awesome. All right. So far this episode has been amazing. But we're going to take our second break, our last break of this episode. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We're here at the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey in Netcong, New Jersey with Steve Frederick. We'll be right back. It is time for your New Jersey fun fact of the day. Did you know the first submarine ride took place in the Passaic River? New Jersey inventor John Philip Holland successfully launched his Holland Boat No. 1 into the Passaic River at Paterson back in 1878. And that is your New Jersey fun fact of the day. All right, we're back. This is our last segment here at the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey in Netcong, New Jersey. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. He's Steve Fredericks. So we've gone through the background of the theater. We've gone through your background. We've gone through a lot of stuff that you've kind of gone through over the last year and a half. But the one thing that we always like to do in these last segments is tie it back to the community. So we've touched on it a couple times over the course of this episode. Talk to me about you mentioned it in the last segment, but talk to me about the importance of the relationship between you guys here in this space with the surrounding community at large of Netcong and beyond.
Sure. Well, that That's always been key to us as far as making sure we have that connectivity and engage our immediate community as well as reach out beyond it.
Yeah.
Because we just realize how vital and important it is to give back.
Right.
You know, a nonprofit organization is constantly asking for help. But in the same token, the nonprofit organization can't survive unless it's fully engaged with the community it serves.
Yep.
To that end, you know, the New Jersey, the Netcong community has a self improvement district. The Netcong Community Partnership, which is a local business and government that's working to improve the business district here in town. I currently have served almost 10 years now as its president. So we're actively involved in Netcong within that community.
Right.
Our business manager, Stephanie Kingsbury, currently serves as the treasurer of the Skylands Rotary Club. So again, she's out there. She's getting in, not only representing the growing stage, but also engaged in helping and serving the rest of the community a little bit beyond our immediate community.
Right.
To that end, too, Danny Campos, who is our marketing director that I spoke of earlier, Danny also serves on the Sussex County Chamber of Commerce, as well as is actively involved in the New Jersey Theater Group. Excuse me, New Jersey Theater. Why am I forgetting the name?
Danny's behind the camera. We could just ask
Yeah,
him.
I'm sorry.
Danny, what is
Danny,
it?
help me here. The Alliance. Thank you. I apologize.
That's okay.
I used to be their president too. Now you know why it's used to be. But yeah, and they serve the entire all the professional theaters within the state of New Jersey. So we're actively involved as a staff.
Yeah.
We have board members that are actively serve the community in other aspects as well, and we try to bring that collaborative spirit throughout the entire organization.
Right. What about also like community outreach? And what I mean by that is like, do you do things and programs and shows, maybe, I don't know, beyond the walls of this building? Do you take that
Absolutely.
into like, you know, events, festivals, different things like that?
Yeah, we do as much as we can that the schedule allows.
Sure.
Because of all the production schedules, it's not always easy to take, you know, a show and bring it to others.
Yeah.
To that end, we always make sure that we have complimentary tickets available for other not-for-profit organizations that serve children. You know, we've been recognized by the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, by domestic abuse in Sussex County, because we always have these complimentary tickets available for their clients and their associates so that they can then come and enjoy the professional performing arts
Right.
at no cost. And then we're also in the process right now of reviving a program that we once had that we're bringing back, which is called Sharing the Spotlight. And what that does is allow other not-for-profit organizations to participate in one of our productions, provide us with 3 to 5 volunteers per performance for a show.
Yeah.
And then we allow them to set up a table in our lobby to promote their work, and then give 5% of our ticket gross back to that organization as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
So in that way too, it's collaborative, and it allows both organizations to develop, you know, more of an audience. An awareness about what their work is all about.
Yeah. What about the other way too? You know, like talk to me about maybe the community and its involvement here, because one of the things you mentioned in the beginning, in the first segment, was, you know, how basically saving this space has kind of endeared yourself almost to the community around here.
Sure.
Because obviously it's a historic building and all that.
Right.
Do people get involved as volunteers here in the space?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We have a very vibrant volunteer staff here. That helps us on our production days, you know, or here when we have school shows, to help us get the kids off the bus and, you know, hand out playbills and things of that nature.
Yeah.
We have a concession. We will one day resume having a concession area,
Right.
and like a theater store that our volunteers operate and manage for us, and the town itself, the county, has been incredibly responsive financially as well. A good part of our restoration of this building, this is a property, again, going back to the aspect of the building itself. This was a building that we bought the day before it went on sheriff's sale for $100,000 as is. And as I said, it was as is,
Yeah.
in all its beauty and
Yeah.
glory.
Right.
It's now a property that's valued at over $2.5 million.
Wow.
One of our biggest supporters in that aspect, there have been two, is the Morris County Historic Preservation Trust Fund, that has created us the funding that allowed us to really restore the front facade of this facility, put a main roof over our heads, repair that fly system that's out there right now. And it's just been, they've been incredible with regards to their support of our organization. And then we've had, folks like the Laurie Foundation, the R&R Family Foundation, the Stone Meadow Fund. These are organizations that have been with us for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And that have made such a significant impact that it's really a generational change that they've been able to create
Right.
Through their support.
Yeah, which I think is great because I mean, we had, as I mentioned to you before, one of our first episodes that we ever did was the Mayo Performing Arts Center, which is
Sure.
also a nonprofit.
That's right.
And they, rely heavily on the community because the community is basically what saved that theater.
That's right. The community theater was a very similar story,
Right.
but a bit larger scale.
Yeah, for sure. Which I think is just great because I think that like things like this, as when you tie them back into the community and what a community needs to be a community,
Right.
And I think especially also you were talking about, serving on the business development and all that kind of stuff within Netcong.
Sure.
If they're trying to revitalize businesses in downtown areas, like this is a spot that could help do that. You know what I mean? That's what happens in Morristown. That's what happens in a lot of places.
Mike, what we're not is an island.
Right.
Right? We're
Exactly.
not an island where everybody's connected.
Yep.
And so that if you don't not take advantage, but if you don't realize that fact,
Yeah.
and build bridges all around from our organization to yours, for your community to ours, from your family to our family of artists and teaching artists and professionals, then it's a big fail.
Right.
And what we've also tried to do and convey to our funders, our funding partners, is that they're not just giving us money, they're making an investment.
Of course.
They're making an investment in our mission, they're making an investment in our community. And as a theater for young audiences, they're making an investment on the young people that we have the opportunity and privilege to serve.
Right.
Because all the statistics, all the information that they have about the impact that the arts can have on a young person's life and helping them successful into adulthood, being able to convey their thoughts, their ideas, being able to see the world globally as opposed to just within their four walls,
Right.
to ways to be able to solve problems and invite learning and to take challenges. Those are all key things that Lord knows we need more of these days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
And you constantly need.
Yeah.
And so these are not just gifts, though they're appreciated as if they are.
Right.
The reality is they're investments.
Yep.
And we try to treasure those investments and make sure that every dollar, every cent is being spent appropriately and as directed.
Yeah, which I think is great. All right, so if people need to learn more about the Growing Stage, maybe how to get involved, where are some website, social handles? Where can they go to get more information?
We're on all the social media aspects, but growingstage.com is the main hub as far as your information. It has information about the organization, about our ongoing productions, about our classes, about our school programming. And if you want to become an investor,
Sure,
you could also do it through that. Always got to plug that too.
Right.
But
or a volunteer, I
or
would imagine
volunteer,
too, right?
Absolutely. Everything kind of funnels through that website. It's a great design, and it's easy to navigate and to use. And that, or just give us a phone call by calling 973-347-4946.
Awesome. And, I think that also when I was talking to Danny before we even got up here and started recording this, I think when this episode drops I think it's going to air in November.
Okay.
And I think that's right around the time that you guys are coming back with your first show post-pandemic, basically, right?
Yeah, it's It wasn't the original design. We had hoped to be able to open in October, but because of the Delta variant, we decided, you know what, let's hold off.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound really schmaltzy and everything else, but I think it's that we're reopening our programming the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So I mean, to me, we're starting our 40th season and bringing back live theater to our families. Right after a day of giving thanks, and there's not going to be any more meaningful opportunity for us to give thanks for the opportunity that we survived,
of course,
the past 18 months, and that we're still here.
Yeah, amazing. And then also just for reference, the address of the building is
we're located in the Palace Theater on 7 Ledgewood Avenue on Route 183 in Netcong.
Awesome. All right, well, Steve, this has been incredible. Like, I appreciate you having me come down here and see the space and talk to you and all the stuff that you guys are doing. I think it's phenomenal, and I really appreciate that. So,
thanks, Mike. I really appreciate the opportunity as well.
Absolutely. Shout out Paula Bruckner for connecting us and getting this on there. But yeah, so I'll make sure that I put all the GrowingStage.com, the phone number, the social handles. I'll put all those in the show notes. GreetingsFromTheGardenState.com is our website in case you want to go through me maybe to get more information on the Growing Stage. You can of course do that. But yeah, so Steve, thank you again. Everybody else, thank you for listening. This has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. He was Steve Fredericks. This is the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey in Netcong, New Jersey. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Crowd of lights on me.